For more perspective on the stalemate with Iran, we're joined by Iran expert and executive vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft Trita Parsi. Trita, thank you so much for joining us. Iran has laid out its demands for the U.S. in order to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. How did this conflict get to the point where Iran is now demanding concessions from the United States?
Well, this war should not have been started in the first place. That was the ultimate mistake. And it was done in a manner in which was expected to be over with within 4 days. And here we are several months later. And not only do we have a stalemate, we have a stalemate that actually is hurting the U.S., arguably more so than is hurting the Iranians. I do think, however, that the Iranians are not making those demands to open up the strait. I think those are demands that are being made for a direct U.S.-Iran negotiation to resume, which has not been the case so far. Officially, the talks are between Iran and Oman right now. But I think it is reflective of the fact that failed military actions and this constant investment in thinking that through military actions, the tables can be turned has only made matters worse. Now the Iranians are in a stronger position and are making demands that reflect that reality.
At this point, is there any possibility of going back to the pre-war conditions of free passage through the strait?
I think there is a way to get to a situation in which there is free passage in the sense that all ships can pass. But I do think it will be with some form of a management service fee that will be collected by the Iranians and the Omanis, or some sort of a configuration of that. I think it's extremely difficult to get back to the exact same situation that existed before. But I think it's also important to keep in mind what the ultimate U.S. interest here is. Traditionally, in these type of situations, the U.S.'s interest has been to make sure that there is a free and non-discriminatory and stable flow of commerce, not necessarily who is controlling a specific waterway. So if we can achieve that primary objective, then that is frankly good enough. The secondary objective of making sure that a hostile power is not in control or managing it is only there to serve the primary objective. But if we can get a deal that achieves that primary objective, that is good enough.
The president's rhetoric on Iran keeps changing. Last week, he was still threatening deadly escalation, talking about decapitation, but then he told Axios this weekend that he is, quote, low-keying it with Iran, and implied that he might be willing to sit back and watch the economic pressures Iran is facing internally play out. What might be the president's strategy here?
I think, frankly, it's really difficult to discern that there is any real strategy. I think there's a bunch of tactical moves that are being put together, but not any real strategy. Unfortunately, that's part of the reason why the country is in this dire situation and this debacle at this point. I do think ultimately there is no other way out of this than a negotiated settlement. We're already seeing how Trump has tried various military moves at this point. None of them are working. The only thing that could work is if we have a complete investment in diplomacy, and that requires a lot of patience, which is not something the president is known for.
You've also written extensively about Israel. Yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected President Trump's peace plan for Gaza. What options does the president have now?
Well, that is a different issue in which the president actually does have a lot of options. What is really fascinating here is that the Trump administration is not trying to hide the fact that it is Netanyahu who is rejecting the peace plan. In previous eras, whenever the Israelis were rejecting a peace plan, the administration went out of its way, tried to shift the blame to Hamas or to some other entity. So the mere fact that this is actually happening in a more open, transparent way, I think in and of itself is noteworthy. It is not in any way, shape, or form a sign that we're closer to a solution. But ultimately, the Israelis cannot continue to do what they're doing in Gaza without America's support. So the United States does have a tremendous amount of leverage. The question is the president willing to use it?
Trita Parsi, we thank you so much for your time and insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.